Hi, welcome back to the Problem Solved podcast. My name's Matt Gribchik, and today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Jon Drew from the Drew Group on the Gold Coast.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm very good, mate. Thank you for
Thanks.
joining me.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I've got a big list of questions today, so I'm really grateful for your time and appreciate you giving me the opportunity to ask you some probing questions.
No problem. Yeah,
I thought I'd just touch on a quick introduction
sure.
about yourself and your business, and then hopefully we can just flow on from there.
Yeah.
So the Drew Group's a third-generation property development company. You guys have been a prolific developer across Brisbane and the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And you guys are really focusing on Main Beach at the moment.
We are. Well, yeah, as you said, we're third generation. So, you know, in a snapshot, my grandfather moved to the Gold Coast in the mid-70s when the Gold Coast was very juvenile. It was very much a beach town with huge potential, and obviously, you know, my father. I was a baby at the time, but I still vividly remember coming up from Sydney on holidays here and just seeing this expanding network of canals and houses being built and farms being, you know, resumed, and it was an amazing sort of time to be moving from Sydney to the Gold Coast. And so my grandfather was very close with a lot of the original influences and around the coast. So Bruce Small, Jock McElwain, who was a major canal developer, who'd honed his skills in Florida. So they became sort of friends of ours, of the family, and then my parents decided to follow suit from Sydney in early 80s. And so we all moved up as a family. I went to the Southport School. My sister went to St Hilda's, and that the Gold Coast became our home. And you know, through that journey, and looking back now about how the coast has influenced me as a businessman. It was looking back then and going, well, you know, I'd love to be part of this growing city, and you know, looking at high rises, and then, you know, through my school journey, meeting parents of my mates who are also in the industry, guys like, you know, Brian Ray and Jack Heaton and Gordon Douglas, and, you know, big names in the real estate industry, and their sons and daughters were in my circle of friends.
No way.
So, you know, on weekends we'd get to hear these stories about what's getting built and
who's building what,
and challenges and downturns and what the market's doing, and it intrigued me. And then my father was also then involved. So my grandfather came up. He built service stations and car yards. And then my father sort of took over that business and expanded into townhouses and land subdivisions around the coast. So I was always wrapped up in that as an industry that I saw myself in, and therefore, you know, following school, I was fortunate enough to go to Bond Uni and do commerce with real estate and marketing as key majors. And that was the sort of start of the career. At that point in time, I decided to move to Sydney to have a bit of an idea of what it would be like to live and work in a big city. So I moved to Sydney and worked for CBRE for 6 years, focusing on their inner city developments, inner city site sales. Got to
in the sales
realm. So I started off very junior, like as junior as you could get, data analysis essentially, and then worked my way up into, you know, sales, and then essentially built my own book, which allowed me to meet people like Harry Triggerboff and Bob L and some of the major developers in Sydney, and you got to talk to them about what influenced them, what were they looking for. I mean, you know, I was a salesman, so to understand in a mind of a major developer how I could look for sites for them to bring them opportunities.
What they were looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a really important part of understanding that transition. I mean, obviously, as a salesman, you're concentrating on selling, but underlying that was, what am I selling and who am I selling to?
And was there something in the back of your head which, had you made the decision to go back to the family business at some point, or at that point in time were you basically like, I'm going to forge my own path? What was...
Look, I think that at that point in time, you know, you from the age of 22 to 28, you're on your own journey and you're establishing yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it was important for me to make sure that at whatever point in time I returned to some type of involvement in the family business, that I was bringing something. I wasn't I wasn't just following in a footstep, so to speak. Which then took me on another journey over to London. I lived in London for 4 years.
Wow.
After Sydney. Worked in real estate over there. Transitioned in London from sales into development management. Worked with a big London-based developer there for 4 years. Had a fantastic time. Met my wife from Brisbane in London.
Oh, no way.
I know. It's cliche all over. Much to our parents' delight that we weren't going to end up with one of us in a foreign country.
Yeah. You both were able to come back.
We both came back. Yeah. So that was essentially the start of the next chapter of Drew Group. So Dad was at a point in time in his life where he was like, okay, well, I'm starting to slow down. And then I came back and we sort of reinvigorated the company. We started here on the coast. We built some townhouses, and then we built some apartments right next to the newly finished Nerang railway station.
Yep. And when was this? What year roughly?
This would have been 2004.
Yep.
So that was kind of the start of the next chapter for me. I was, in that next stage of my life, about to get married, and just starting to travel down that path of, okay, what's next?
Yep.
Am I out on my own? Do I go and work for someone else? Yep. Are we going to, bring the Drew Group as a business to that next chapter?
And that was sort of the succession plan, really, within the Drew Group.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it probably wasn't as planned as it sounds, but when you look back on it, that is kind of
how it played out.
Yeah.
And then from what I understand, there was a fair bit of work you did in Brisbane.
Yeah.
After that, in that period.
Yeah. So we moved. My wife had a big role in Brisbane, and I just saw Brisbane as it was really back then, sort of 2005. It was very much emerging as the country town that's becoming a big city, a competitive city with the rest of the east coast of Australia, and it was hugely undersupplied. So there was a really big spike in demand. So we were really trying to be part of that, both in commercial offices and in residential apartments.
Yep.
And we just started forging ourselves in that new farm, Fortitude Valley, Newstead precinct, which has just continued to explode. And it's got some fantastic buildings that have gone into that really old industrial area.
Yep.
Inner city old industrial.
You did a number of projects in and around those areas.
We did, and we focused. We sort of got a model that became a bit of a process that we still follow today. We really try and target the market that we're looking to do, or looking to build into, making sure that you really look at the research that surrounds you. You've got a knowledge of the site that you've selected. I think site selection and understanding the quality of that site is something that is really important
Yeah.
in development. It's not so much that you have to run around and find the best site, because often that's not the case. But if you haven't got the best site, or your location is B grade instead of A grade, then the product needs to flow and respect that.
Yeah.
And then the price point. So the success we had in Brisbane was that we were always inundated with demand, because we'd bought a site that was, one block off the best street. It's still only 100 metres walk, but the price point was different.
Was different, yeah.
Yeah. So we got to pass that back down the line to the purchaser.
Well, ultimately creating value for your end user.
Yeah. Well, when I look back on the projects that we did in those precincts in Brisbane, and now I look at what's sort of been built around them and the amenity that's been built around them and the infrastructure, you can see that everyone's sort of made huge amounts of capital growth.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's a great story for us. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest legacies that I look at is when I look back, have all of our supporters, investors, owners, have they all done well? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you put that down because from what I'm piecing together, that experience early on in your career, especially in CBRE, right, and the exposure to other property developers, you've developed your own metrics.
Yeah.
Right. And you really entered the Brisbane market when there was a huge undersupply, massive demand. You identified key areas. So that blueprint and business model, to me, it looks like you've taken that and from Brisbane identified similar sort of metrics on the Gold Coast. And has that been your philosophy for moving down to the Gold Coast, identifying those key metrics?
100%. Yeah. Look, it was one of the things I love about the property industry, and especially Southeast Queensland, is the canvas that you've got is beautiful to start with. So we're spoilt with natural beauty, and when we decided that it was about 2017, we'd just finished one of our projects in Brisbane. We could tell that it wasn't an oversupply, but there was a large influx of development applications.
Yeah, the data had obviously shifted.
It had.
Yeah.
And it didn't last for very long in hindsight, but it was looking at the data and going, okay, there's 5,000 apartments approved in this precinct, and the market was strong. Interest rates were reasonable.
Yep.
Builder selection was available. So we looked at it and we said, there's a good chance that most of these are going to come on. So we're now going from a market where we might be competing with 250 apartments and we had 70 to sell to 1,000 apartments.
Yeah. And it's forecasting not just 12 months, but understanding that these jobs are going to come online within the next 5 years.
Correct.
Right. So it's having that foresight to really look at what the future holds for those areas.
Yeah, and I think that as a business that isn't supported by major institutional equity finance, the equity is our own. So when a lot of the competing stock was being brought on by publicly listed companies, major funds, major Chinese-backed capital, and that was another influence for me. I was like, well, not only am I competing against this stock, but I've got to compete with much skinnier pockets.
Yeah.
And so if I have to hold, if I've got delays, if I've got increases in costs, if I've got increases in competition, because the competition has different return and risk profiles, and that's something that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But the risk profile of overseas investors and institutional investors is often different to a private whose own equity, own risk, own personal guarantees. So that was the reason why we said, look, let's step back from Brisbane. At that stage, I've got 3 sons, so we were making a decision, and it was kind of that high school decision.
Where to send them?
Yeah. So they were booked into school in Brisbane. They were automatically booked into the Southport school because I went there, and my wife and my parents were still living here on the coast, so. It was a bit of a no-brainer because we were travelling up and down the M1 all the time, and we said, well, the Gold Coast seems to be on this cusp of going, and we're at a situation where we can make a decision to move here and slip into an already known position quite easily. So there was a number of my consultants that either had offices in Brisbane and the Gold Coast, or one of them had office just on the Gold Coast but worked in Brisbane. So moving to the Gold Coast was
effortless, really.
It was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then looking at the opportunities on the coast. So this was 2016 when we first started identifying areas, and at that point in time we just said, look, the southern Gold Coast beaches are absolutely going crazy.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of stock, but there was a lot of opportunity with land acquisitions. And so when we made our first acquisition on the top of Kira Hill.
That was the Rutledge Street?
Yeah, Rutledge Street, the beach houses at Kira. That was our first foray into the coast market since, leaving the coast to go to Brisbane. And we got a fabulous DA on that. That was our first relationship builder with Hutchinson's.
Yep.
And it was a successful project. I mean, looking back on it now, seeing what density's been changed, and you look back and you go, I built 15, townhouses, and I could have probably built 50 apartments now.
But you identified, I suppose, the supply issue, and the future demand. So in terms of having a look at the data and the metrics where people were moving, you did pick the right area, and it was the same sort of business philosophy that you used in Brisbane and you brought down here, which then
correct. Yeah.
So being early to the market has its advantages. Then ultimately people have come in and built up around it because that data has then sort of progressed.
It's I guess it's the same effect that happened in the Newstead New Farm Valley precinct in Brisbane. We were in there early. The buyers who supported us were in there early, and bought well, and then it all exploded around them.
Yeah,
and I think if you go back to any of the projects that were built from Coolangatta to Burleigh 5 years ago.
Look at that now.
That were completed 5 years ago.
Look at the value.
Most of them have doubled.
Yeah.
Which is an odd stat. It's an odd statistic to say that properties have doubled in 5 years after being bought brand new.
Yeah.
It's not like a beach shack that's been sitting there.
No,
this is a brand new apartment. So I think that has been that data, which gets put through the media and you hear it quite a lot, drives demand.
Yeah.
So that then gave us the confidence to build. So we bought a block in Main Beach, which was called Cerulean. That was back then. So that was 2017. That was the first development that occurred in Main Beach in 10 years.
Yeah.
So Main Beach was a bit in the doldrums, but I always loved it because I'd lived directly across the road from it.
Yeah.
I'd spent a lot of my youth in and around Main Beach and remember it for being what it was. And it, again, natural beauty, location, infrastructure.
It was
light rail had just finished.
Demand.
Yeah. It's access to Brisbane. I think the Southport Surf Lifesaving Club has the largest Brisbane-based membership because it's the closest to get from the M1 to the beach. So it's a popular club, and the whole area was I could feel was buzzing. Now that project didn't come without challenge because we were the first project in 10 years.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah, we were producing these owner-occupier big 3-bedroom apartments.
It's 29 units, wasn't it, in that job? Yeah,
that's right. 17 stories. Again, we partnered with Hutchies.
Mm-hmm.
They delivered a beautiful building, and that, although it was a challenge to sort of get to that point, like anything, when you do off the plan sales, you're selling a dream, and now you're selling a dream to an owner-occupier group who haven't seen new product in this area in 10 years time for 10 years. And they're wondering, will this happen? It's the question of everyone who buys off the plan. Probably even more escalated over the last 5 years than it was back then.
And I suppose your second project back on the Gold Coast too.
Yes.
There was people going, are they actually going to deliver this job? So
well,
there was
that's
that
right.
as well.
And you've got a product essentially at the other end of the coast that says, well, we're doing it. Look, we're doing it there. And they're like, yeah, well,
what about Main Beach?
What about Main Beach?
Nothing's happened in 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was, and I look back, and they're still my friends today. So some of the buyers in that building, I still see them wandering around the streets, and they're always lovely people, because they come to me and say, look, I'm so glad we put our faith in you off the plan, because
look at the results.
The result is our apartment's doubled in money, and we love it. So a lot of them are still living there. I think we've got 3, if I'm correct, that have moved from, or will be moving from, Cerulean in Main Beach to our new project, Lagoon.
Yeah.
So they have followed us as a business. And then after that, we went back down to the southern part of the coast, and were able to secure a prime site in Palm Beach.
That's the village.
Yeah, the village at Palm Beach.
And that was 75 units.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was, again, a bit of a hot potato at the time planning. I look back on it now and look what other developers have managed to get approved.
You were first through the gate.
Yeah, so we were very, and I'm naturally conservative, so I don't look at a site and go, well, if I go impact accessible and I get this valuation uplift or height uplift, then I'm going to have a project that's going to be fantastic. That's the reason why I'm buying it. I go, well, what's the worst case?
And you go for that.
Yeah. What is the worst case? If I walk into council and say I'm ticked all the boxes, can I have an approval? That's what we start with. And again, Palm Beach at the time was going through major growing pains. Very active local community that really just didn't want to see any progress.
And that was before all the DAs sort of rushed through too in the area.
Correct.
So you were a little bit ahead of that.
We were.
Yeah.
Which put us in the firing line as well, because we were.
But also set the standard for everyone else.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And showed everyone, hey, that's the approval we can get as well. So you were probably a little bit ahead of the time in the area as well.
Yeah, we were. And we were right on that. Again, we partnered with Hutchinson Builders. Worked with them right from the start. It was a tricky build, even though it was a big site. It was directly into water, a metre down, where the beach is 20 metres away. So, it was a challenging getting out of the ground. 75 apartments, and most of them came with 2 car parks. So, which is where we again felt that we were moving towards for that owner-occupier. And then COVID hit, right when we were getting ready to sort of finalise what was going on, and luckily we weren't so early that we had a lot of trades on site.
You were well progressed.
Yeah, we were progressed, but we weren't at a point where the trade labour force, even though building was considered
essential service.
Service, that's right. It didn't change. A lot of the trades lived across the border.
Yeah,
couldn't get You couldn't get into Queensland anyway.
Yeah.
And the general feeling was you could come to work or not. So
your productivity dropped.
productivity was a nightmare.
Yeah, I remember that period.
But going back before we started, so that I jumped ahead a bit. When we launched Village and we had our display there, it was, I look back on it and go, did I get the pricing right? But it was all advised and valuation based. But we sold that building in 3 months, 75 apartments. Sold out.
Pre-sold?
Pre-sold, the whole lot.
So the uplift at the end of that for those...
Yeah, it was huge.
It would have been huge.
It was huge. So we built through COVID, finished in 2021.
Wow.
And it was a huge success for everyone who was involved.
I mean, that's great insight. So you finish Village, you've finished up in Main Beach, but now in the background, you've done the first, so just to contextualize, you've done the first project in Main Beach in 10 years. You moved down to the Village in Palm Beach, sell out 75 apartments. COVID hits, but all the way in the background, you're amalgamating sites in Main Beach still.
Yeah.
For your next project.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first project in Main Beach in 10 years. In the background, you're amalgamating a site which ends up being the biggest amalgamation site in Main Beach since the 80s.
Yes.
COVID hits. You've designed Lagoon,
which
is 259 units.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, it was touch and go, to be honest. Like it was, the timing was probably a bit more that by the time we'd completed an amalgamation of 37 individual owners, which was just, I could write a book just on that.
And that started from 2017, am I right?
No, it started as we were coming to the completion of, so about midway of Village,
yeah.
When we knew that we were in a good spot, Hutchies were on program, the building had sold out, we could see the finishing line. That's kind of when I started, okay, well, and generally as a business, I don't try and overload my capacity because I don't have a huge office with plenty of staff that could run 3 or 4 projects
at
in
one
parallel.
Time.
So from both a financial risk philosophy and just mental and physical capacity, I try and dovetail and create a pipeline rather than multiple.
But the amalgamation process itself, when did you start?
Yeah, we started that in 2020.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And it took about 12 months.
For 30.
For 37. There's lots of cups of teas, lots of conversations.
That's a project in itself.
With interstate buyers, but though it was interstate owners.
Yep.
It was a very fortunate position because 90% of the owners within that 37 block of apartments was they were all investors. So the buildings were run down.
So they knew
this was a good opportunity. They were getting paid above market price. They didn't have to worry about any of the maintenance, or it was all coming down.
Yep.
So they were just selling as is, where is, and we were just amalgamating on the basis that you've got the deal as long as everyone else falls in line. Which is a very hard thing to rally 37 individual personalities. And
you did that personally?
I did that with my colleague, good friend, Roland Evans from Canford Property. So, trying to keep that quiet was difficult. But once it started to roll on and everyone knew we were the real deal, then
you got some momentum.
It was like, probably 9 months to get 10 and then 2 months to get everyone else.
Wow.
So it happened quickly, and then that was Lagoon's sort of birth.
And what was the driving force behind Lagoon? Because you've gone from 75 unit project down in Palm Beach to 259 units.
Yeah.
With a huge amalgamation. What was the purpose? Like, what was the main drive for you behind behind it? What
Yeah,
did you
it's a good
see?
question.
What did you see? Because there must have been a burning desire to commit to a job that size, stepping up from 75 units. So what did you see in the area? What was your turning point to really
Look,
commit to
I
it?
think you can, a lot of it comes with luck and a position of, the scale of the amalgamation dictated the scale of the project.
Yep.
So if you'd asked me at the beginning of the amalgamation,
Do you want to do 250 units?
yeah, it would have been no way.
Yep.
I want to do 75 just like I did down the road.
Yep.
But then you start understanding that the amalgamation can only happen if everyone's involved.
Yep.
And there were certain owners within that amalgamation that knew that. So they had strategic positions across the entire
Across different
site.
sites, yeah.
Yeah.
Different properties. So different owners were strategically working out what you were trying to do.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And they were the ones that we started with. So they took the longest to negotiate with.
Yep.
But then you set yourself, okay, well, we've got 4,000 square metres in Main Beach. Wow.
What are we going to do?
What do we do? And I'd engaged with Plus Architecture well before we'd completed the amalgamation.
Yep.
So we were doing concept designs. We had a boutique hotel. We had apartments. We had all sorts of different versions of what was going to happen. And we laid it all down, and we sat down with financiers and town planners, even sat down with councils. We had multiple pre-lodgement meetings.
Yep.
And then, eventually it got to the point where we were looking at this project, and the way I justified it in my head was the market was very strong. So that was an underlying, the demand, the fact that Main Beach itself had not seen product that was 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 car parks. They just hadn't seen that. And you look at all of the resale data of existing buildings, and there was a big hole.
Big hole.
Big hole. There was guys doing beachfront, 1 per floors, 2 per floors, but there wasn't that bread and butter stock. And that was the same in the 3-bedroom market too. And the 1-bedroom market, it's a bit of a enigma, but there was virtually no research because no one sold them. They were so popular. No one really.
Everyone was holding on to
held
them.
held on to them. So that's when we started looking at the scale of it, and then a good mate of mine, Levi Corby, who was running Hutchies at the time. We were sitting down looking at these plans, and he said, look, on a project of this scale, you can probably you can afford for a marginal cost increase, you can afford to go a 3rd basement, which I'd never considered. I was just like, that's going to be too big, too much, too long. Anyway, we did the programming. We looked at the cost base, and that added like 140 car parks.
Oh, wow.
Straight up.
Wow.
So then we looked at, well, what do we do with that? What do you do with 140 car parks, and how does that affect the building itself?
And the yield.
Exactly. So essentially what it ended up doing was adding 10 floors to the development, 5 on each side.
Tower.
And it also cemented the fact that we were going to offer to the market, not 88% of the apartments in Lagoon come with 2 individual car parks,
which is pretty rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
And that was my little thing in the back of my head that I said, well, that's an insurance policy. Yes, it's going to cost X amount to go down further and build for longer, but I'll be a very unique.
With the 2 car park offering.
Yeah. You're really walking into the market saying, downsizers, come and talk to us.
Yeah.
So when we sat down with the council, the town planners, and we did all of that, and we presented, they just loved what they saw, and we had no controversies. So from lodging development, a formal development application to formal approval, it took us 3 months.
That quick.
3 months for a project of that scale.
Yeah.
Now, that didn't mean that there'd been work done previous to the lodgement, but it's very rare to see council assess a project of that scale in that period of time.
So they obviously saw the requirement for that project in Main Beach, or they saw the benefits to the community.
Yeah, and they saw that, we weren't taking advantage of what the town plan could have allowed us to do.
Yeah.
So, with that amount of density in the basement, we could have built 50 stories and put one car park per apartment.
Yeah, wow.
And had much bigger yield. And it was also, that was when we were making the decision, do we split the towers? Do we build a big one?
Yep.
And again, through planning, through having a team around me that I trusted implicitly, that they advised on that, and we came up with what we've got.
So so you're in the position now where you finalised the design, amalgamated, settled the site, ready to roll on, got your DA approval. COVID's hit.
No, this was at post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
So what we were doing, we were coming out of that. If you recall, as much as COVID was horrible for businesses, for real estate, it turned on some light.
It just went boom.
It just boomed. It was this, the fear of missing out, the FOMO that hit through the market.
Yeah.
Which is no doubt why Village sold so well. And we were coming out of that, but the challenges and that came from that was the cost escalation.
Yeah.
And we, as an industry, I don't think anyone saw just how badly it was going to affect us.
Well, your prices, construction costs going up 1.5%, 2% a month.
Correct.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
So you were obviously trying to procure your project at that time. You're trying to lock in a contract with Rosehume Hutchies.
Yes.
So you're negotiating that. You're also in the process of obviously pre-selling. And then behind the scenes, you're obviously organising your construction finance all at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and you're stepping into a project which has got 259 units. It's a massive undertaking. What was your strategy? How did you go about it? What was the strategy with your builder? What was your strategy with your marketing team?
Yeah.
And then what was the clincher for the finance? How did you package it up?
Looking back on it, there was a lot of sleepless nights.
Yep.
Because it was that
just a tiny bit of stress.
Yeah, it was stressful.
Yep.
Because it was that point where the building industry was coming off some really tough positions where builders had failed because they'd exposed themselves to a market that had increased so dramatically around them, and fixed price contracts were just failing all over the coast.
Oh,
you would have
every job.
Yeah,
every job.
So when you're hearing that and you haven't signed your own contract, and the builder who's probably Australia's most trusted private builder and backed with a huge balance sheet,
yep,
but has gone through these challenges too
on other jobs, actively
at the same time,
right? Yeah.
So
on a big scale,
you've got their hesitance on going, well, why am I going to do this? Why am I going to give John a fixed price contract? And ultimately, we got to a point where we're going to go, we're going to have to work together on this. The contracts aren't going to look like what they used to, and the banks have to realise that.
Yep.
In the meantime, we still had the challenges of standard finance requirements of pre-sale coverage, making sure you've got your builder locked in, making sure the QS,
price,
all of that.
Yeah.
So it was an evolution. I look back on it because we were challenged with new contractual conditions.
Yep.
Which, in hindsight, I don't think were unfair, even though it put a lot more risk back on the developer than it did the builder.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at where a lot of the problems came, it was because fixed price contracts were being enforced.
Yep.
And that's what ultimately caused, I feel, it caused a snowball effect throughout the industry, especially in southeast Queensland, that if you're going to have contracts enforced by a development company to the point where it puts a builder into bankruptcy, then, we don't want to be that. We don't want to be in that relationship.
You don't want to get caught up in that cycle.
Yeah,
Yep.
but everyone was on edge.
Yep.
Lawyers, bankers, builders, us.
Purchasers.
Well, that's right. So we were in a situation, and I can tell you, we did a very soft launch before we'd finalised the build contract, and we probably sold about 20 apartments, and that was just people coming and going, "Yep, this is great."
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to slow that down because I could see that the prices of the construction costs were continuing to grow.
Yep.
And I made sure we were in a situation where we were confident that what we were selling wasn't going to change. So we,
in terms of your product
yep. price.
So you were worried at that point in time that your product may have to change because of what was happening with the escalation?
Oh, look, not so much that, because we'd already received our approval.
Yep.
So I'd already locked in what we were delivering.
Yep.
And that's where the tricky part came, because we designed apartments for owner occupier and investors to live in, and they were all about 10% bigger than what you might normally find.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, when you add that up over 259, it's a lot. It's a lot of square meters that you're going to build. And the market was identifying that, but it wasn't. There's price point analogy where someone's willing to pay X amount for a product, and then there's a sort of valuation and cost base analogy where you start talking about rate per square meters, and you're sitting there going, well, our rate per square meter's super low because we've set a 2-bedroom apartment at X amount of dollars. And we were starting to go, well, if the build price continues to go, we're going to get caught here.
Yeah, and because it was doing that. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
So look, ultimately the discussion and the outcome was that Hutchies and ourselves were able to negotiate a contract that was happy for the two of us to enter into.
Yep.
We took on more risk, but Hutchies also took on fixed price on certain elements.
So it sounds like that was a hybrid. It was a bit of a hybrid contract, probably the first time you'd ever done something like that.
We were the first off the rank.
Yep.
In Hutchie's world, and then it just sort of flowed through the market.
So that would have required a tremendous amount of trust between the parties.
It did. It did, and it also involved my lawyer, Dan Marino from Hickey's.
Yep.
The negotiating skills of that team to be able to bring that together, and then you overlay that with a financier who was willing and able to complete, but we had this kind of, well, finance is approved when the construction contract's approved, and the construction contract's subject to finance. So we're just going round in circles. But eventually common sense prevailed, and so we got it all locked in. We launched officially, and we probably got to 100 sales within 3 months.
Wow.
So that 3 months was demo, construction documentation, all of the things that needed to happen. So there was definitely a period of time where I was still selling, and I hadn't reached my requirements for funding, which would mean that the construction contract was void, and finance. But again, I think that the idea of what we originally came up with, the concept, the core of the lagoon design, it stepped forward.
It shone through that.
It did, and again, the trust that off the plan buyers put in you it's dramatic, and it never goes unappreciated.
Yeah.
You talk about a sale being a sale and someone's coming in, but buyers who put their money down and say,
Yeah,
we're gonna,
they're backing
they're
you,
backing
they're
us.
backing your business and your project.
Exactly.
And it's interesting. So, what you were doing as well with maybe just touch on with your marketing, because you've provided, car parking benefits. So 2 car parks,
Yeah.
Per unit. You've got slightly bigger unit sizes, but then you did more for your buyers as well. So this is the part of the story that I really like, what you did for your end buyers in terms of improving security, sustainability, and some of the other benefits. So throughout that period, you've still done everything you can to provide additional value for the purchasers that have sort of backed your project.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we pride ourselves within the business is we're very nimble as far as when we make a decision, we research it, we discuss it within a group, and then we make a call. And that can often be well after the start. In fact, a lot of the decisions we made occurred
during the process.
So, even to the point when we were on site, we've got some. Of course, you don't find these problems until everything's knocked down and you scrape the soil away. But there was an old house buried in the corner from.
I've had that one plenty of times
from the 50s. So all of a sudden, out came the asbestos suits. We start to excavate. We've got acid sulfate soils. So we, but then we get introduced to a company, Wilson Environmental, Ros Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
She was awesome. She came in so confident about being able to solve the environmental side of things, working with Gold Coast City Council, working with Gold Coast Water.
Yeah.
And I felt that watching that process happen so quickly and having such a great result just cemented the fact that we're going to make these changes along the way.
Yep.
And they probably will come at a cost to the overall project.
Yep.
But it just showed the commitment and the appreciation that came from that. So we started to, we'd already added a solar system to the entire development on the roof of the building.
For communal power?
For communal power.
Yep.
So we put solar panels over the roof of the building. That feeds back into the grid, which feeds the communal power, lifts,
Wow.
common area, lighting, all of that. So then as part of the development process, there's, water recycling, water storage for garden beds.
Nice.
And it just, you could tell as we were explaining this in very short form conversations with buyers, there was just this interest in the ability for us to talk about sustainability, to talk about the environment. So then we went back, and this is all after a construction contract signed.
Yep.
And there was a couple of questions about, you've got a building that's got some apartments facing west, or have western aspects.
Mm-hmm.
How hot is that glass going to be? What's going to happen? My aircon's going to be running all the time. So we did research. We got the glazing company in, and did a lot of thermal loads on the building, and said, well, look, why don't we look at double glazing that side of the building? We went to China. We went and spoke to the manufacturers of the glazing.
Yep.
And they said, look, by the time we set the factory up to do that, the cost of glazing the entire job, double glazing the entire job, is only marginal to what we've already offered you for the glazing package. So that's, I sat down and went, well, that's off the bottom line again. But we introduced the fact that the entire of Lagoon, every piece of glass was going to be double glazed with air gaps.
Wow.
Reducing thermal load, reducing requirements for air conditioning, reducing heat within the apartment itself.
On every elevation.
Every elevation.
Yeah, wow.
And it was a bit of a game changer. Like we announced that to the market. We announced that to existing buyers. We have regular functions introducing a sort of meet your neighbour conversation. So put on some drinks and
Nice.
nibbles, and anyone who's bought in the building comes and meets and gets to know each other. They swap phone numbers, and it's really quite cool.
Yeah.
And the building's we hadn't got out of the basement yet.
And you're giving them live updates.
Well, that's right. So we announced we're going to double glaze the building, which will do this. It was like to a roar of cheers. And again, it was just one of those things that you went, well, this is important to people. This puts someone's worry aside because you've thought about it and solved it before it's become an issue.
Or if it was a lingering issue, in the back of their minds,
that's right. So over the coming months, we actually found that the apartments that were most affected sold out. I didn't expect to see any of that. Like the western-facing apartments up the Broadwater
actually sold
out.
Through.
Sold more than the beachfront.
Wow!
And I
just from announcing the double glazing.
Just from that, I think it was from that and squashing people's concerns about that, and then as the momentum of a marketing machine goes, and the more exposure you're on social media, and you're really ramping your campaign up. You know, you're right in the middle of your biggest monthly spends for marketing. So the project's getting recognised, across the country. You're keeping on adding little bits of fruit to your marketing message that quite often you don't see because they're fixed, it's locked in. You're not spending any more money, and if you haven't got that, you don't get it.
Yeah.
And that's fine because that's just how some models work. But we found that ability to change the narrative, to continue to improve the message for existing buyers and then for future buyers. So there was a lot of, when looking back on it and speaking about it now, I'm sure that we could find a stat of how many existing buyers introduce their friends
into the project. Yeah, wow.
So you've got immediate recognition. And I've always said that the greatest salesperson for our project is people who've already bought.
Yeah.
They've already committed.
It's the cheapest marketing too.
It is. Or that recognition from someone who's bought in a previous one of our projects. So testimonials was a big thing. We introduced that as a piece of our marketing, and then we just kept on promoting the simple factors of what we're delivering. We were in the process of reviewing our CCTV options, and these were designed. By the time we got to that, that was about 12 months ago. These were designed 3 years ago. So the tech piece
had completely flipped.
Yep. So what the original electrical engineer had specified for Lagoon, the new tech that was coming out of Germany was 10 times better. And I'm like, well, what are we putting old tech into a building that hasn't even been finished?
Yeah, so you redid all that.
So we redid that when we found this this tech out of Germany called Ubiquity, and it's in Australia. It's just the software package hadn't arrived, and they're so big in the US and Europe that little old Australia doesn't get a lot of attention. But now they're coming in a big way with a lot of support. So we looked at what their tech was, and it was amazing. Facial recognition software at the front door. So
each door?
No, to the main entrance.
Yep.
And to any of the common area lounges. So essentially, what you can do, and we've set up the letterboxes so that you can do this. Is my idea for the facial recognition. Not only can it mean that you can put your grandchild's face on that camera.
On the ID.
Yeah, yep. and they can get into the building at any point in time and come to your apartment or your child's. You can put your cleaner, you can put your dog walker.
Wow.
Someone leaves, you delete that, no more access to the building.
Wow.
If you want to go for a surf or go down to the beach or go to a restaurant and not take anything.
No keys.
Just want to take your swimmers and a towel, no phone, no keys. You can put your phone and keys into your letterbox, which has got a code on it. Walk to the beach, have a swim.
Come back.
Facial recognition, grab your phone, go home. So when I looked at that tech, I was like, this is just another one of those things.
Yeah, wow.
you know, and we put that into our marketing campaign, and sure enough, that's what, you know, people came in and said, tell us about this tech that you've got, and so it was just empowering our sales team to continue to promote the innovations that we were bringing to the building.
Yep.
And then you know, that sort of flowed. I mean, it flowed on to sort of a couple of other decisions I made about. You know, there was a time in the market. It's probably still active, but you know, sunset clauses.
I was going to bring that up because that was a major decision that you made.
Yeah, it was huge. So yeah, when the idea that, and we were getting this live feedback. So when I talk about being nimble in business, I'm talking about you got to listen. You got to listen to the people that are bringing you that live data.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, that's my sales team. And obviously the media feeds the beast.
Yep.
If the media says it, it's true.
Yep.
So there was so much media around what does a sunset clause mean? How does it affect you? You know, who has implemented the use of it? How's that affected? And as you know, you would have read the same stories.
We saw it live on projects.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we were then now, not only were we challenged with all of the challenges that I've spoken about, we've now got someone saying, well, we don't believe that you're not going to cancel our contract and try and make more money in the future. We don't believe you because
everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
It must be true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to sit back and go, well, how do I tell someone that I'm not going to do something that they think I might for financial benefit when others have done it? So I went and met with my financier, and I said, look, you know, a sunset clause is there to protect the buyer. It's not there for take advantage of from a developer. So we're already under construction. We've already met our pre-sale covenant. What is the benefit of us having a sunset clause sitting in a contract? If we know we're not going to exercise it,
what's the point of it being there?
What's the point of being there?
It's just creating this contention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always, there's, as you know, there's sunrise clauses. I think they've always got a place in a contract because that protects unforeseen circumstances that a project can't start.
Yep.
But once you're underway, a sunset clause is there to protect the buyer from a developer not finishing a project, not a developer asking for more money because he can. So we removed the sunset clause.
Wow.
And again, we added that to our repertoire of what this building brings.
Yeah, it's quite widely communicated too. So it was a big announcement.
It was another snowball effect.
Yep.
The phones rung, people came through the door. It was a really positive thing. Existing buyers, you know, came in and said, you know, thanks. It just gave everyone a bit more calm to sit down and go, well, what, you know, with anything in a competitive environment, you're looking for your point of difference. You're looking, because like, you know, making the phone ring is point number one.
Mm-hmm.
Getting someone in the front door is point number two. And then sitting them down and explaining what your product is. And, you know, I look at one of the things coming from a sales background, I always look at, and I never take for granted what we do. So what we do is we build and sell probably the most expensive product that anyone's going to buy in their lifetime.
Yep.
It's not a Porsche and it's not a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
It's all more than that.
Yeah.
It's an asset, but you know, it doesn't matter whether you're selling a $3 million penthouse or a $500,000 one-bedroom apartment. To the person that's buying it,
it's a big deal,
massive deal. And if you lose sight of that and you don't treat purchasers with respect, then why would they come back? And why would they even stay?
Why would they trust you?
Yeah, so that's always been instilled in me. It's come from Dad. It's come from my grandfather. It's come from understanding the relationship that you have with a purchaser, and not treating them like they're just a number on on a list.
Yeah, so that really leans into the values of the Drew Group and the legacy that you guys have built over 3 generations.
Yeah, look, I mean, we have a sort of a bit of a motto where we talk about trust and professionalism and integrity. You know, those are kind of 3 core words that I've floated around the business the whole time.
Yeah.
And, you know, the ability for me to always be present for anyone, you know, that ability to be personal, to be connected, and to be able to show buyers, consultants, financiers, builders, it's me, and me. You know, I've got a team around me. I surround myself with the best of best professionals, and that's always been a great asset for our business.
And I wanted to touch on that as well. So, how many people in your office?
2. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love this about your business setup. There's 2 of you. I just wanted to touch on how you run your projects, because you bring in the best of the best consultants, the best of the best partners, and it's a very unique setup that allows you to be on the pulse of every major decision operationally every day.
Yeah, it is. And look, when I say 2, I mean the inner circle is probably 5.
5. Yep.
And it's just it's a great way to. I think if you can keep your finger on the pulse, you trust implicitly the people around you.
Yep.
You know, they're friends, personal family friends.
Yep.
Now, I mean, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're my business partners, and we just continuously talk and keep close and have a good relationship. Yeah, and never let things, you know, go unsaid, and never let problems not be solved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also allows you to bring the best of the best into each project.
Correct.
You know, and
utilize their resources.
Yeah, which is a really smart way of operating. And it allows your decision-making process to be quick.
Correct.
So something else that I know you're really passionate about is your philanthropic work. And I just wanted to touch on that really quickly, because how do you fit it in? I mean,
you know, I fit it in because I'm passionate about the people I support.
Yep.
And I get a lot of pleasure out of that personally. So to be involved with my very close mate Perry Cross in the Perry Cross Spinal Research Foundation, it's not really work. It's just fun hanging out with Perry, but supporting him financially and whatever else we can do as a company. Similarly with the Men of Business Academy, Marco, who's a great mate of mine, just doing wonderful things for the city. So I support these foundations that bring benefit to the city of the Gold Coast. I think that's if you live and work and breathe the place that you love, then it's always nice to see something and give back to that community and actually see action. You can make donations all across the country,
but to see the impact of that,
that makes it fun. That makes you want to go to these meetings and see how it. I
suppose that's also part of a legacy as well.
Yeah, well, I hope my boys sort of follow in suit and do that. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. So, John, looking forward to the future. What are the plans for the Drew Group? You're about to finalise Lagoon and finish off.
Yeah.
What's on the cards?
Oh, look, we've got some great opportunities that we're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got another site very close to Main Beach that we're in a initial design development with, and we're really excited to bring that to market over the next probably 3 to 6 months.
Another residential.
Yeah, it'll be another residential project. We're going to take what we've learned from Lagoon. I always say, for every project that we go into, we take and we do an analysis of what we've done in the past.
Perfect.
Take the things that we've struggled with, take the things that have been hugely successful, and implement that as key elements in the next project. And that will always be. It's like that evolution. It's like me talking about being nimble. It's like, okay, let's work out what the market wants for the next project. Let's look at affordability. I think affordability is a massive problem across the entire coast.
Yep.
Pretty much across the country.
And it's going to continue to be
It will.
as
construction
issue.
Costs continue to rise. I can't see any reduction happening in that space at the moment. I can see stability, but it doesn't mean that it's coming backwards. So prices won't.
Prices aren't
coming back.
Now we've got inflation and escalation issues for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So I look now to the future and go, well, how are my boys going to afford their property? How does the greater market, not the top of the market, not the rich and famous and the beachfront and all of that's taken care of. But where does the major majority of households
on the Gold Coast
move to their own apartment, or live in their own apartment, or get a rental in their own apartment? So that's what I'm focusing on now. I'm really focusing on being able to deliver quality projects, luxury projects, but with an affordable element that gives both investors and owner occupiers great value for money.
And refining what you've done on Lagoon to then move on to future projects.
Exactly. Take all of the wins from Lagoon, put it into the new project. Take anything that we went, well, geez, we could have done that better, or that was too expensive, or we haven't got the land size to do that. We look for innovation. And
are you able to share a potential target start date or commencement date?
We are hoping to start before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it'll be subject to council approvals and all of that, and making sure we've got the right building partner. But we'll watch this space.
Fantastic. You got a busy 2026, finishing off Lagoon and starting the new project.
I'm a sucker for punishment.
No rest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Thank you, Jon. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and it's been great to share this time with you. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.